Many of us are captivated by the political maneuvers of Julius Caesar in Rome, or the relentless expeditions of Alexander the Great. But, hundreds of years after them, deep in the cold and unforgiving steppes, a man was born, whose empire would far exceed the combined territories of Rome and Alexander's conquests. His name echoes through history as a symbol of terror. Genghis Khan. To many, he was nothing more than a barbarian. A bloodthirsty tyrant, who led hordes of horsemen to burn the great cities of civilization to the ground. But, could the largest contiguous land empire in human history be built solely on brutality? Absolutely not. Beneath the ashes of the cities he conquered, Genghis Khan was a system architect, a logistical innovator, and a deeply pragmatic general. This is the story of how an exiled slave re-engineered the global war machine, and built a new world order. Before he became Genghis Khan, he was Temujin. He was born around the year 1162, in the harsh Mongolian steppes. Out there, the law of nature was absolute, the strong devoured the weak. Temujin's life collapsed when he was only 9 years old. His father, a tribal chief, was poisoned by a rival clan. Instead of protecting young Temujin, his own tribe abandoned him, his mother, and his siblings, to the wilderness. They were left to starve, in the freezing winter. But Temujin did not die. It was at this absolute rock bottom that his mentality was forged. He learned one crucial lesson: loyalty based on bloodlines is a myth. On the steppes, survival depended on mutually beneficial alliances and actual competence. Later, as he began to build his own army, Temujin shattered ancient traditions. While militaries across the world handed generalships to aristocrats and nobles, Temujin implemented absolute meritocracy. It did not matter who your father was, or what tribe you came from. If you were a master archer, you were promoted. If your tactics were brilliant, you led the vanguard. He once even recruited an enemy archer who had nearly killed him in battle. That archer would go on to become Jebe, one of Mongolia's most legendary generals. This logical approach made Temujin's army incredibly efficient. He gathered the best talent, not the best last names. In 1206, Temujin successfully united all the nomadic tribes that had previously slaughtered each other. He was then granted the title Genghis Khan, meaning the universal ruler. Now, he had an army. But how did he conquer the world? The answer lies in his mechanics of war. The Mongol army was not a mindless horde. They were a highly structured military unit. Genghis Khan divided his forces using a decimal system. Squads of 10 men, companies of 100, battalions of 1,000, and divisions of 10,000, known as a tuman. This system allowed commands to flow from the top down, with incredible speed and precision. Their primary weapons were the horse, and the composite bow. Mongol warriors could sleep, eat, and fight in the saddle. They struck like a storm, raining arrows on the enemy from a distance, and then faking a retreat. When the enemy forces took the bait and broke formation, the Mongol cavalry would wheel around, and decimate them from all sides. It was the deadliest hit-and-run tactic of the Middle Ages. Beyond that, Genghis Khan was a master of psychological warfare. He knew that the most powerful weapon was not the sword, but fear. If a city surrendered without a fight, the people were spared, and integrated into the empire. But if they resisted, the city would be leveled to the ground. This reputation spread faster than his cavalry. Many great kingdoms simply surrendered upon hearing that Genghis Khan was heading their way. This was not just cruelty. It was efficiency. Winning, without having to fight. conquering territory is one thing. Controlling a landmass that stretched from eastern China to eastern Europe is entirely different. This is where Genghis Khan's rarely discussed genius truly shines. He built a communication and logistics system that was centuries ahead of its time. Imagine having a real-time information network in the 13th century. Genghis Khan created a system called the Yam. The Yam was a massive network of horse relay stations spread across the empire, located about 20 to 30 miles apart. Mounted messengers carried special medallions engraved with an eagle or a tiger, granting them supreme authority. They would ride as fast as possible, swap their exhausted horses for fresh ones at every station, and ride non-stop, day and night. Through the Yam system, military intelligence, tactical orders, or tax reports could travel hundreds of miles in a single day. It was the internet of its era. While enemy forces in Europe or the Middle East were still struggling to gather information, Mongol generals were already making decisions based on the latest data delivered through the Yam. Faster information meant sharper execution. This was the true secret behind how the Mongol Empire could move with such devastating coordination across continents. By the end of his life, Genghis Khan's reign had permanently redrawn the map of the world. But his legacy was not merely conquest. After the dust of war settled, an era known as the Pax Mongolica, or the Mongol Peace, emerged. For the first time in history, the entire Silk Road, the main trade route from Asia to Europe, was under a single security umbrella. The law was enforced strictly. There was a saying that during the Mongol Empire, a virgin could walk across the continent with a sack of gold on her head, without fear of being robbed. This security triggered an economic boom, and massive global cultural exchange. Paper, gunpowder, the compass, and various innovations from the East, finally flooded into the West. Genghis Khan also implemented something remarkably modern: religious freedom. He knew that forcing people to change their beliefs would only spark rebellion. As long as you submitted to the empire and paid your taxes, you were free to worship any god you chose. Genghis Khan died in 1227. His tomb has never been found, hidden somewhere in the Mongolian steppes, just as he requested. He was born a starving outcast, yet died as the man who laid the foundations of the modern world. His brutality cannot be erased from history, but to deny the sheer genius of his strategy and administrative systems would be a massive mistake. If you enjoy breaking down the mechanics of history and the strategies of great figures like this, don't forget to like, leave a comment on who we should analyze next, and subscribe to keep exploring the blueprints of civilization on this channel. See you in the next chapter of history.